If you're a real estate agent making cold calls and you are having trouble getting the prospects that you are cold calling to even listen to your pitch before they hang up on you, then this video is for you. Here are the steps I use to get the most amount of prospects to at least listen to what I have to say before rejecting me. The first thing I do on the call, ring, 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 when they pick up and they say hello, I say, "Hi, John." That's called assuming the name. And I do that because I want them to know that they might know me. I don't tell them that they know me when they don't. I don't act like that. But I say, "Hi, John." I just burped. "Hi, John." And then I don't do that on a cold call. And it gets them to think, okay, maybe I know this person. And they say, "Yeah, this is John." So that's step number one. Then the next step is, and when I do this, I speak slowly and I use this exact cold call opener. And that opener is, "Hey, John, this is Ray Smith, real estate agent from XYZ company. How are you?" And people want to create these crazy cold call openers because they think they need to be super creative. I have just found that the best way for me to cold call is just to speak slowly so that they can understand and so that it doesn't sound scammy, so that I don't sound like a salesperson. Introduce my first and last name for transparency, the type of professional that I am, clearly, for transparency, and then the company that I'm associated with, again, for transparency, cold call transparency. And then I'm like, "Hey, this is so-and-so, how are you?" And then once I say, "How are you?" they're gonna say, I'm good, how are you?" And I'm like, "I'm well, John, thank you for asking. John, am I catching you at an okay time?" And that's step 3. So the first step is to assume the name. The second step is to tell my first and last name, the type of professional I am, and the company that I'm affiliated with, and then ask them how they're doing. And the third step is, "Hey, John, am I catching you at an okay time for literally just a minute or two?" And I say those words in exactly that way. And here's the philosophy or the mindset behind why I use that particular phraseology. Number one, if I say, "Am I catching you at a bad time?" it's always a bad time for a cold call. So they're going to say, "Yeah, it's a bad time." If I ask if it's a good time, it's never a good time for a cold call. And so they're going to say, "No, it's not a good time." And then they hang up. So what I say is, "Am I catching you at an okay time for just a minute or two?" Number one, I'm showing them that I respect their time, that I'm not going to take up a lot of it, and that I just need like a minute or two, and that's all that I need. Number two, it also sounds like different than every other person making cold calls about real estate. And most people don't ask that. They'll just kind of go ahead and pitch because they want to realize, they want to say, "Hey, this person's going to hang up on me anyway," and they want to get out what they need to say. I'm not in a rush. I'm going step by step, because while the prospect is feeling me out and my pitch and my value and the reason I'm calling, I am feeling them out. And this is my step to weed them out as well. Because if they hang up before I pitch, then they weren't interested in real estate anyway. But if they listen to my pitch, I can at least say, "Hey, listen, and here's how I pitch." And once they say, so they're going to say a couple different things. Number one, they're going to say, "Yeah, it's a good time." "Yeah, it's an okay time." Or, "Yeah, I got a minute or two." I go ahead and pitch. On another case, they might say, "No, it's not a good time. Actually, I'm grocery shopping or I'm with my kids." And I'll say, "No problem." And I ask this question in exactly this way. And it's the same question I just asked. "No problem, John. I understand you're busy. What would be a better time for me to connect with you for literally just a minute or two?" And again, I say those exact words in that exact way because it's a reminder to them that, hey, it's okay that I know that you're not busy. You're busy right now. I just called you out of the blue, but it's a reminder to them that the call is only going to take a minute or two. And when I do that, they're going to say one of a few different things. They will say, "You know what, call me after 5 when I'm off work," or something like that, or whatever, or "Call me in an hour." and they'll say, and I'll give you a chance to talk or whatever. Or they will say, call me in an hour or call me after work, but would you mind telling me what this is regarding? And I go ahead and pitch. Like anytime they say, what's this regarding? I don't tell them it's regarding real estate. I mean, it is regarding real estate, but I don't just leave it at that. I tell them exactly why I'm calling. Hey, John, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. We just sold a house around the corner from you, and I didn't know if there's anything in the world that I can do for you as it relates, of course, to real estate. And a lot of times, like I said, or sometimes I will just call them later like they want me to. But the fact of the matter is, if they're like, you know what, I'm not interested in selling my house. A lot of times people will just say that and without whatever. So the point is, I'm trying to demonstrate to them that it's just going to be a minute or two. I'm trying to demonstrate to them that I respect their time. I'm also speaking slowly so that they're not feeling like the wool's being pulled over their eyes. Everything I'm saying is 100% transparent, and that is extremely important on a cold call when you're building relationships with property owners in the real estate industry. And then that's how I set it up. And when they say, okay, yeah, I got a minute, I'll just go ahead and pitch. If they say, call me later, I'll call them later. If they say, call me later, but by the way, can you tell me what this is regarding really quick? I just go ahead and pitch. And that's my, I think, 4-step process. I think that was 4 steps to basically getting a prospect to listen to my pitch. Number 1, assume the name. Hi, John. Number 2, introduce myself. Hey, John, this is Fred Smith, real estate agent from XYZ company. My first and last name, the type of professional that I am, and the company that I'm affiliated with. And then I say, how are you? So I want them to say something. So that's asking a question. How are you is a good way to do that. And I also say it exactly that way because I do not want to get creative with cold call openers here. I just want to let them know that I'm a real person, not a salesperson. When you use cold call openers that are gimmicky or that are clever or funny, even if they laugh or they give you the time of day, you're gamifying it, and it's not a game. You want to talk to them like a real person. You don't want to sound like a salesperson. The minute you come up with a clever cold call opener, you're going to sound like a salesperson. So that's why I don't do that. And then I just say, am I catching you at an okay time? And then again, the qualifier is for just a minute or two. And I trail off. This is the last thing I want to say about this. When I say the words I say, am I catching you at an okay time for literally just a minute or two? And I trail off that way. It's just verbal psychology, I guess you could say, neuro-linguistic programming, whatever you want to call it. And it's just because they'll be like, yeah, I got a minute, or I don't really have a minute, but go ahead and tell me what this is regarding, or call me later or whatever. And then you just say, okay, no problem, I'll call you later. When's the better time for me to connect with you for just a minute or two? And that's the reminder. I'm telling you, when you go through these steps, and they might sound tedious if you've never done this before, but when you go through these steps, they are designed to elicit positive responses from people. And the fact of the matter is, if somebody doesn't want to talk real estate, they will have rejected me at one of these stepping stones that I'm building. And so the more they kind of deal with my step-by-step, transparent, deliberate, methodical process, the longer I know that they're at least going to hear me out. And sometimes that means that they're more likely to even have a real estate need, because if they didn't, in a lot of cases, they would have just hung up on me. So I hope that helps. Feel free to give this video a like if you liked it, if you found any value. And if you want to hear more like this, then please subscribe. And also, last thing I want to say this, I am open to feedback. I am not the expert on anything. So if you guys have different ways of making cold calls to get positive responses, whether it's a cold call opener or whatever, or how to get people to listen to your pitch, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thanks.